We in the studio. We in the studio. We Rob in the studio. In the studio. In the studio. Catch a vibe in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. We Rob we in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. Catch a vibe. Yeah, I'm in the studio with Rob. I need to make the heat flicker. Is alone and only thing can make a Rico beat sicker. So listen and get your wisdom. Gemstones on your head. Good with the OG like Flintstones. Good in bed. Been living a long time and he got something to say. Depending on how he feeling, dog, you might got something to pray. This type of influences, you ain't gotta filter through your liver. We in the studio with Rob. Gonna let the heat rock simmer.
Yo, what's up, bro? Welcome to another episode of In the Studio with Rob. I am Rob. And like always, with my man Izzle.
Here,
What's going on, young fella?
feeling good, feeling great. This is a family day. I am excited. This is fun already.
All right, well, we about to have a little bit more fun. We have with us, can't give you her government name, so I'm going to just say my little sister and I'll let her introduce herself. But I also want you to tell us about her podcast as well and what she does on that. Go ahead and hit her up.
All right. Well, this is
Who
fun.
you are.
Hey, this is Rock the Bell, spelled RAQ, pronounced ROC, co-host of the Working People's Pod on the Out of Sandtrap Podcast Network, and the new podcast coming soon, Rockin' a Hard Place.
Hey,
All right, rocking a hard place. All right, I hear you. Hey, well, first we would like to thank you for being on with us. I've been knowing this young lady for her whole life. Um,
quite some time.
it's been a long time. I've been a long time. But one thing I like to say though is that one of the things I've noticed over the years is that like people always used to tell me, you got a lot of wisdom, you got a lot of intelligence, but so does she. She has a lot of wisdom. Even at a young age, she has a lot of wisdom. And I'm glad she's sharing that with people with her podcast.
Now he says it. Good.
Like Mr. Toast.
Yeah, I'm glad she has information. But now she so people, when you tune in, you should get a lot out of her podcast as well. Um,
Thank you.
so with that said, one of the things we're going to talk about today, we want to talk about basically being involved. And I don't know, for some of you, the ones that if you paid attention to my Black History celebration, when I talked about young people getting involved and really not waiting for us older people to like put you out there, but just take the mantle and run. It's your time. You talked about how young Martin was when he started, and Malcolm. They were young people. They were in their 30s when they died. So they have been in the fight for a minute as young people. So it's time for the young people to step up. And so with that, we want to kind of talk about this podcast. The title of this episode is kind of one of those things we want to hope that you kind of get inspired to move. So it's be the change you want to see. So, Rob, when you hear that title, be the change you want to see, and we're thinking about these young people out here, what does that mean to you?
Well, the title, I feel like isn't that a saying from something or something? It sounded like something I heard like years ago.
Yeah, I ain't make that up. It
You
came
didn't
from
make that up? Okay, that's the first thing
I
I
ain't
thought.
make that up. No, I like to
Was,
regurgitate stuff when I can.
was it Jesse Jackson, R.I.P.?
I don't remember where I heard it from though.
Okay, because it got a little rhyme to it. That's why.
Might have been me.
Yeah, it might have been Jesse. Look,
Yeah,
it might have been from from different world. I don't know.
Might have been.
Or like one of those Schoolhouse Rock commercials or something like that.
Nah, it wasn't Schoolhouse because they went down.
Could have been. Could have been me.
All right.
Made me
Well,
remember.
Tell us what you think.
as you stated, I think a lot of times we look back at movements in the history of this country. We think of people being a lot older than they are, and then we do study and we do find out that they were a lot younger than we anticipated. Like you said, King died at 39, I believe, or Malcolm around the same age. And then there's Fred Hampton, who's killed at 21, so chairman of the Black Panther Party. So It's I think the role of young people is to do the active stuff, and the role of the older people is to impart wisdom and mentorship and guidance. And unfortunately, a lot of times, a lot of older people don't want to kind of pass that baton along or light the torch of someone else because they don't want to leave their positions. And that's, I think, what's gotten us in a situation right now where you have a lot of apathetic young people.
Right, right. I agree. I think that's the key, and that's the whole thing is that at a certain age, and I remember like when I was in my 20s and when I first got out the army and I was in Philly, I worked with a group called Crossroads, and we were doing voter registration and doing speeches, trying to get people involved in the struggle that we were going through and some of the things in Philly. Um, but again, at that time, I was 26 years old, and now, I'm almost, I'm 58. And so now it's like, yo, what young people what they're doing, and there are some that's doing things, and a lot of them doing things. But I think I think sometimes they wait or they want the approval of older people when it's not needed. You don't need somebody older to give you permission to fight for what's right or fight for what you believe in. And
Hmm.
so, and I know, like, when on your podcast, I hear you talk about a lot of different things. It's what you believe, and it's like, all right, well, what young person can take that wisdom and run with it and get some change. I talk about even like in the politics. Politics is like, why we got all these old politicians? There
Because
should
they don't
be a
want to leave.
permanent.
They don't want to give up the power. They don't want to give up the money. So,
Right. And it's
mhm.
like all the young voices. Where they at? We need them young voices in there.
Not letting people
Yeah.
make decisions that ain't gonna be around for the decisions they making for.
Right. Right. So it's kind of like, all right, so Rock, I guess if you, like you talking to a young person right now that's, let's say 21 to 25, and they have some, I guess, some angst about getting involved, what would you tell them?
Okay, so let me preface this by saying I don't give advice. I give opinion. I give options, brother.
All right.
So I always encourage people to do whatever their their aspirations are, regardless of age. I think though, when it comes to being willing to step out there are a lot of gatekeepers, and they tend to make it more difficult than it has to be. I think now even more so because there's so much access, via the social media, internet, and all of that, where um, you get you get feedback before you even jump out there, telling you why you shouldn't do something or you don't have the right credentials to do something. And so, if I were to give options, I would say try. If there's something you're passionate about, definitely try it. And if it doesn't work, maybe pivot, try it a different way if you're really passionate about it. But I think part of the problem is not that they're not young people doing things, because I read a lot of, I read a lot about young people doing things. I hear a lot about young people doing things as well, but I think they don't get the publicity because the gatekeepers don't want to let them in, or they don't want to, they don't want to share the spotlight. I really think that's more of the problem.
Right. Okay. And I think that's unfortunate because again, I agree. There's a lot of young people that's trying different things in different areas. But my thing, again, that fear sometimes of failing or not getting what you want right away, sometimes will hold people back. And for me, I talked about this before, where failure is not your identity. So even if you do something and it fails, that just means it's an opportunity for you to learn something and then do it better the next time or a different way, as you put it, do it in a different way, and you can do it better because you learned from it. So I'm hoping that any young person that would be listening, if you have a desire or a passion to do something, don't be afraid that you won't fail or that the gatekeeper's gonna stop you. But eventually, these gatekeepers gonna pass on anyway. But most of them, look, you got gatekeepers that's 80, 70, 80 years old. They ain't gonna be holding no gate for long. They can't even strong enough to turn the lock on a lot of them. So you can't be swinging these gatekeepers
Right.
through that. So
Well, that's the disconnect, though. That's kind of the problem because if they're holding their door closed and young people are basically waiting for them to just pass on to be able to move into whatever they're trying to do, the problem is there's a gap there. There's a rites of passage that doesn't happen because when that elder person should have been pouring and mentoring into that kid, they left them there to figure it all out. So it's a lot of things that they could have avoided as far as mistakes, things that may have made them want to quit when they didn't even have to experience it. A lot of options they didn't get. So I mean, I think when it comes to young people who are in, I'm generalizing, but I do think when it comes to young people, if there's an issue with the way they're living or chasing their goals or dreams, I think a lot of that is because of the lack of support from people that are older than them. I just, that's where I fall.
you know, when we talk about the let's like the civil rights movement of the '60s, our parents were young during that time and went through it. But the people, I think one of the problems that happened with that movement is that once the civil rights ended or was signed into law and was like, hey, y'all got rights. Um, I believe that the people that was fighting thought we made it, and they didn't always pass down that the struggle continues to the next generation. So in the
100%.
80s, when I was coming through, we was like, we was living in a world of, materialistic, it's like, yo, just get what you can get, you got opportunity, you can get it all.
Hmm.
But the fight, there was still a fight that was happening that we slept on. And so I think you have almost like a segment of a generation that didn't even understand that the fight didn't end. It just changed how it was being done. So now this new generation, they're getting pulled into something. It's like, yo, I thought we was past all this, or I thought,
Exactly.
this should have been done where it was a gap. And it was a gap because the next it's like this generation learn but then teach the next generation and prepare them to continue and I think that we dropped the ball on that I was thinking my parents generation to our generation and maybe into a certain maybe to a lesser extent because of all the craziness happened over the last like 7 years 5 to 7 years that kind of woke it back up again for our generation to pass on to younger ones.
No, 100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There was a lot of kind of that 90s hip hop feel to life, basically. It stretched to the end of the 80s all the way to the mid 2000s. It was just like,
Right.
get money, get money, get money, whatever. But so yeah, I definitely agree with that. But now young people are having to face it like this hard reality. Like the things that even they were told that they were going to be able to do. You go to college, you get your degree, you get your house and all that stuff. That's a lot harder now. I
Right.
mean, particularly if you come from a family where you got to get student loans to go to college or something like that. Now you're talking about these people trying to garnish your paycheck to pay back student loans, and
Yeah.
you got to make a business decision. Like, do I want to get 40, 50, $60,000 in debt to get a 4-year degree where I may not even be able to get a job that's gonna pay me to afford a house or to even pay my monthly expenses. It's a lot for them to decide on.
And I think the problem is that the people that said it was okay to get a debt of $60,000 had $60,000,
Right.
and they also, or in most cases, didn't even have to pay. So they were like, "Oh well, you got the legacy and all the other ways to get in." So
Hmm.
when you're just pulling yourself up, so to speak, by your bootstraps, or your family doesn't have anything, it's like, all right, I can get $60,000 debt and then get a job for $40,000.
Right.
That's bad math.
Exactly.
So
All
it's
day
not
long.
we
No,
would have,
because you're not including the interest.
yeah, the interest take it over 100. So
Right.
and you want me to pay for this for the next 10 years? I was only in school for 4,
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm
longer than 10.
over 10. I I used to work with this young lady. She was and at the time I think she was in her late 40s, and she had a doctorate, and I was like, and she was still going to school. I said, why are you still in class? She said, I'm gonna go to school till I die because I ain't never gonna pay back my student loans. So she's like, as long as I'm
I've
in class,
heard that many times.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So she was like, I would just keep taking classes forever. But I mean, but
Yep.
that's unfortunate that you spend that much time, but then you can't even find a career that's going to pay you for what you, all the time and all the money you spent for those 4 little years. And most of them, you probably just partying and having a good time the first 3 years. So, but again, with that though, the young people have to decide, okay, schooling, and if I'm going to school, what's the value? But to me, it becomes all right, once you decide that that's where you're going, maybe you need to be in politics, or at least influencing politicians so that those student loans don't hurt you the way they hurt the generations past. Or we want to find a way to end this, but we can't keep putting in politicians who say, yo, we will make you pay these student loans off no matter what, and put you in jail and garnish your wages, when in reality their kids never had student loans.
Right.
So it's the
And in the 70s,
making
the
decisions.
college tuition was $300, $350 or something like that. It was, wasn't, it shot up in the 80s under Reagan, but like before then, you could go to, college for 300 something dollars, not per credit.
Yeah,
4 years for your degree. So yeah, it's a big difference, I think. But the um the the issue with politicians is that people don't understand civics, and they don't understand that politicians do work for them. And if
right.
you vote someone in office, then it's your job to hold them accountable. Otherwise, they're going to do what they want to do, as opposed to what you sent them there to do. I know
Yep.
in South Carolina, Jim Clyburn just announced he was going to run for his 16th term at 83.
Wow.
Um,
You know that man falling asleep in them chambers.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't
yeah,
standing up the whole time. No 83. 83 year
absolutely.
olds are like 2 year olds. They need naps often.
Wow. The views expressed. So
No, he loves
not represented. Yes,
I love it. Hey,
all.
because I love you don't mean you don't need a nap.
That's
those.
true. I mean, I need a nap, but I'm just saying, like, that was an
Little
opportunity.
old tired self upstairs, Uncle Johnny, talking all that nonsense.
Right. So he's in a position where he feels like the country is in a position where only he can help, fix the problem. But you've been there for 16 terms, which is 32 years.
Right.
So, um, if you ain't done it by now,
Yeah, right. And
you
so
will.
if you've been in office for 32 years, you are part of the problem. You ain't fixing nothing after that.
Right.
What, why would you have no incentive to fix it, for one? Because it worked for
Exactly.
you for 32 years.
Plus, you about to die, old head.
So,
What we
so,
talking about?
so in reality, we have to start looking at this. One, I think they should be term limits no matter what. But
Absolutely.
we can't keep. You gotta. If you got. I had to convince my son at one point about voting. One of my sons, he was like, it don't matter. It don't matter. The problem is that it does matter, but the problem is not just voting, but it's being active after you vote. You can't just think that, well, I went in, I pulled a lever, and that was it. No, now that I pulled this lever, when things aren't going right, I need to be calling. I
Right.
need to be letters to these people saying, yo, yeah, you got in this time, but next time we're going to make sure you ain't in here no more.
Right.
So all of that is part of what I think young people need to understand. Whether you in college or you just on the block, you know your vote matters, and you need to make sure that you're holding them accountable after you vote.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a whole civics education, which I honestly don't remember getting, but maybe 1 or 2 weeks in school, maybe. I didn't take a civics class,
Right.
so everything I learned, I basically had to learn after I got out of school, and I don't think they get much civics now. So, not understanding the process is part of the problem, but I also think it was by design. So,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
put
that's
people in
because
situations.
again, I'm not going to teach you something that's going to take away my power. So,
Exactly.
and if you look at our school system as a whole, the schools are only going to show you the things that will elevate the people that they want elevated and keep the people in power that they want kept in power. Why would same reason why they want to say, well, we don't need Black history or we don't need to tell people about slavery anymore because it makes the young people, white people, feel bad. No, we tell people and teach people things so that they can grow. You feel bad about something great granddaddy did, that's on you. Because I don't feel bad about nothing my great granddaddy did.
Right.
He did some bad stuff too.
Especially if you
Right.
haven't.
Yeah, so I mean, so at some point you got to get to a place where I need to know information so that I can make changes going forward. And civics is something that no, they're not going to teach you that because when they really, other than telling you Kibo, they're not going to tell you the power that you have outside of voting
Right.
because then you start making some changes. And young people can be like, yo, if we look at the young people versus the old people in America, we got more young people than old people. So if young people really pulled and understood their voting power and the power to say, no, I don't want nobody over 30 to be representing me for this idea or this district or whatever,
Hmm.
they can make some changes. But you gotta have the people when to put in there. Don't put no knucklehead in there.
They could, although just looking at it on a like a micro level, like that type of thing actually happens even on my job. So if we had a meeting and one of the younger people, and when I say younger, he's probably in his early 30s, right? But everybody else is pretty much in their 40s, 50s, 60s and up. He called out something that was true and necessary, and they told him he ain't old enough to know what he was talking about. So if that's happening just on just a regular schmegular, everyday type of situation, it's really hard to get that bigger message across to the country.
But you know why why that affected him is because if you're in the minority, whether it's age or race, anytime you're in the minority, people can shame you or shut you down. But in reality, his pool is at work maybe small, but if he understood that in America as a whole, there's
Hmm.
young people, so I need to be dealing with them. Like even in the civil rights movement, the civil rights movement had, the bus boycotts and the sit-ins. Those were young people sitting at tables, college age
Right,
students that would go and sit in. If they
right.
were just saying, letting the old people say, well, we can't do this or we don't want to do that, it would never have gotten done. So at some point, you have to surround yourself with like-minded people and people with like energy and maybe even like age to say, yo, we gonna make some changes here. Because look, if
True.
I'm saying something positive, but these old heads don't want to make the change or they don't want to give me my prop, then I'm trying to get some young people in here so we ain't gotta really listen to them no more. Because then when we say, if it's real, they'll be smart enough to say, let me give you some information on how to make it happen versus y'all don't know nothing.
Yeah, I think at that point it becomes important to also have not the like ages, like the older people as well, because you need the ones with sense that
Yeah.
know, yo, we aren't the ones that are supposed to advance this. It's supposed to be y'all.
Yeah, I'm saying when the older people are just the older people saying no or saying or discounting what you're saying because you're young, then I need to round up my young people, and let me show y'all that what we got, where we stand. So our numbers outweigh your numbers. So now you're more likely to say, okay, let me help you. Because now, because it's funny. I got a friend of mine. He a little older. He in his early 60s, and the thing that's funny is that he's a little nervous of young people. He's like, oh, when young people, you think of them like, they little rowdy or whatever. That works in your advantage in a way Because if you scared of me, I'm gonna move out my way and let me do what I gotta do. But I'm talking about young people with sense. I ain't talking about just acting like a fool out here with no guidance. But a lot of these young people are so sharp, are so motivated, and can do so many things that sometimes you just gotta corral your own people together and say, let's go do this, and then we'll pull in the old head as we need to and get more information from the ones that are willing to support us. So I'm just like, I just think that it's time for young America, especially my brothers and sisters. It's time for y'all to, take the bull by the horn and make some changes.
Mm.
I'm young
So
American.
your options are
Oh,
be active and make a change, or don't and get what you've been getting.
Right, right.
pretty
And,
much.
and that's the problem. It's like when somebody gets killed by a cop or whatever, it's like everybody react. It's like, oh my God, we can't believe this happened to anyone. But again, you have to start anticipating that certain things are going to happen in the future if you don't change some laws or some regulations that are in place right now.
Hmm.
If we don't say that it's illegal for you to shoot an unarmed black man and make it a law, make it a regulation that holds them accountable, then it's gonna happen again, and no accountability will be held.
I actually think they're supposed to be. They have like stuff in place. They just don't care.
No, no, but again, there's no accountability to it.
But
One thing about, I worked in the government for a long time, and we have rules, regulations, but then we also have, there's the things that hold us accountable to the rules and regulations.
Hmm.
And that's where we got to make sure, look, what's the accountability for this? And young people, I know y'all, young brothers, y'all scared just like we were when I was young. Look, cop get behind you, like, yo, all right, what's gonna happen? We shouldn't have to feel like that. White boys don't worry about that.
right.
So we know it's going to happen again. So let's organize now before the next death happens or before the next tragedy that we see on TV happen, because it happened anyway. But before we see it on the internet, and let's say, okay, we want to put people in place to support us and help us to make changes so that these things don't happen.
There's a law that does not have enforcement behind it is basically empty. For example, like you could take the Supreme Court, they can rule a certain way, any kind of way, you know. And if you decide that you don't want to follow the Supreme Court, they don't have an enforcement arm to the Supreme Court.
Right.
They can't send nobody to go pick you up. You can't get locked up. Can't write your ticket. Can't give you a fine. None of that. All they do is say, this is what the law is. And without that enforcement arm of it, it's basically you decide, and we're being,
Yeah.
that
So
guy's
basically,
proving that right now. So
it doesn't go further than somebody going, "Hey, Supreme
yeah,
Court said, you gotta chill, man. Hey,
basically.
no, no, please don't."
I mean, but
Right,
yeah, and the Supreme Court doesn't write law.
right.
So all they're going to do is interpret it and say, "Oh, we think this is constitutional or whatever." But even with it, look, we go. That's why I think we need young people in Congress, in the Senate, really saying, "Okay, we need to come up with some law." Because right now we got again these people that have been in here 30 plus years in Congress and the Senate. They ain't passed a valuable law in 10, 15 years. What I mean, you can go back through the last few presidents and be like, what have they actually done? What law has been created that benefited people? Other than saying we're talking about, oh, they got a new tax break or they got more taxes added or they got no, but there's no law that benefit the average person on a regular basis for his or her stability.
Um, I disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, for one, the ACA benefits the average, used to benefit the average person. That's the health care that Obama put in place.
No,
Um,
the last few years that was 10 years ago.
You thought you said the last few presidents. Okay, well let's
Okay,
move it on up. All
all right.
right. So Joe Biden's infrastructure bill that benefits average people, does it not?
No, no. What did that bill do? That actually
Well,
helped.
it's
Talking about,
infrastructure, so it fixes
huh?
roads and bridges and provides internet in rural areas that didn't have
No,
access to it.
now that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Okay.
about this. I'm talking about how we are treated or how people are treated. I'm not talking about like general rule. I mean, because again, tax bills, whether it's
Well, you
rent,
can't write a law to regulate a person's
I'm,
behavior, heart, I should say. You can regulate their behavior. You can't regulate their heart. So,
no, I'm not talking about regular, but I'm saying, but you can put laws in place that protect me from certain things happening to me, or at least should, or at least is a penalty if it don't. You know.
But that's kind of what I
yes.
was saying. It's not cops shouldn't be able to shoot you unarmed. Like there
No,
are rules against
no,
it.
no.
It's like stuff like that.
But
They just not
a
enforced.
cop can say, in most cases, like, oh, I felt threatened, I thought he had this or whatever. And in a lot of cases nowadays, I mean, other than stuff that Trump trying to do right now, but in most cases, there can be where an officer can be arrested and charged with murder if, things
Right.
are so obvious. But the
It's,
problem is we don't
it
have the
is
right
rare.
place that will even charge
Yeah,
them.
exactly. So the system, I mean, as far as the laws, it's written fine. It's just that the people are circumventing it.
Well, again, but again, if the people aren't there, and that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
you people that actually care, the old man that don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, where is old white man that's looking at this and saying, well, this ain't happening to my kid. There's no dog in the fight for him to fight that hard,
Mhm.
and ultimately, money is going to drive it for how much he fights.
Plus, he's sleepy.
Well, but I mean, when we talking about young people that saying whether it's young white people or young black people that have a common thought of I believe life is precious, then they're more likely to at least try to push the issue.
No, I actually think that's right. Because I'm thinking about Maxwell Frost, representative out of Florida, who was in the Parkland shooting. So I think he's only like 20, maybe 26 now.
Okay.
But I think he's one of the youngest, if not the youngest. I think he's the youngest person in Congress. But he ran because of he was in that mass shooting in Parkland, and so
Yeah.
it makes sense that when people have an experience like a lot of people under 30 have had mass shooter drills. I didn't have mass shooter drills. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So,
Very
hmm?
not like not even close.
you
Come on, what are we doing here? Like, come on, come on. We can see
hey,
you.
hey, but to
We
be
can see you,
honest
big
with you,
dog.
and look, now, Israel, he was like when you said people in early 30s, he got all hype as if he early 30s, he
I
mid
didn't.
to late. So
All right.
yeah,
I
he
said
forgot
early.
how he was too. So
She definitely just hit 30s.
yeah, you
I
mid to
said,
late.
said early. But anyway, I said 30.
Come
But
on.
yeah, so we didn't have mass shooter drills, but I do think that they're affected by things that we were not necessarily concerned about, and that should make them want to participate more in politics, and people should get out of the way and let them do it and train them on how to be an effective politician. So until that happens, you're gonna have people like it's a what's that man? It's a man Grassley from Iowa. That man is in his 90s.
Oh yeah.
Dianne Feinstein was in her 90s and she died in office.
Yeah, I was just about
It's
to say.
ridiculous.
I feel like it should be implemented that if it's a worry, like there should be an ambulance on standby outside just in case you happen to kill over while we voting.
That
Then
might make them force term limits at that point. Maybe that needs to happen because
Yeah.
there's no reason for anybody to be in office in their 90s.
not
Right.
at all. You shouldn't be doing nothing in your 90s. Like, bro, you should be doing whatever you want in your 90s. You should be getting dressed to
Yeah,
go to
it should
work
be. Yeah, it should be.
in your
Yeah,
90s,
no
bro.
stress at that point
You
in
live
life.
life wrong if you still going to work in your 90s to vote on
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, no stress should be happening in your life late in life. But I mean,
Exactly.
that's what I mean with about the look term limits. Give us some term limits, or say, all right, after this you gotta go, bro. It's just we love you, we appreciate what you did, but 2, 3 terms, that's all we can give you, and bring in some new thought, new ideas, and then also what people would start seeing is that. when we start making laws and you got people that can't be in there forever, is that they're not, it's like I'm making a law that I know is going to affect me more recently because I got to go. Or I got to do something this term because I ain't got but two of them. So I got to start doing some work and not just
Well,
sitting there.
you know, part of the reason why they want to stay, and this is only probably a small part of it, is because you don't get ranking. You know, your rank is based on how long you've been there, basically your seniority. So they try to stay there longer so they can get to the point where they can be a chairman of a committee or something like that, and then I'll make something happen. So just systematically, it's kind of a messed up. It's just messed up all the way because, like, I think you should get what 5 terms as a representative, 2 terms as a I'll give you 3 terms as a 2 terms as a senator.
Yeah,
That's it.
12 years more than
That's
enough.
it. Yeah, because like at that point you just collecting the check. Like there's nothing more.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
and, it,
they're incentivizing them
and,
to be old in office.
and I think the
Yeah,
problem is if the only way you think you can get something done, or the only time you willing to get something done is when you get power, then you
hmm,
should have been in the first place. Because I didn't go there to get power. I went there to represent my community.
right.
I'm
That's
going to
supposedly, hopefully,
right.
hopefully.
So that's people. We have to change the people's mindset of when you go in here. You go in here, get the job done, and then you go back home.
Right, right.
You know,
It-
but
I think one way to get young people more involved is to help them to understand that politics is more than what goes on in Washington, that it's local. And the
right,
things that happen locally are the things that really affect you the most, it's the closest to you. So, run for dog catcher, run for the school board, run for the
right.
labor commission, whatever in your neighborhood, do something.
Yeah, I mean, look, get on that school board and make sure that your kids learning Black history and the things that they need to know about this world and this country that's going to support them.
Yep, I agree.
So, hey, well, look, we got to wrap up, but we really appreciate you coming on with us, Rock. So before we go, I want to give you the opportunity once again to tell our viewers and our listeners about you and where they can catch you at.
All right, my name is Rock the Bell, spelled RAQ, pronounced ROC. And I'm the co-host of the Working People's Pod, me and Des Dillinger. And you can find us on the Out of the Sand Trap Network. We're on YouTube and everywhere you can stream your podcast. And also have a solo pod coming up, Rockin' a Hard Place. That's me talking about stuff that aggravates and bothers me. And so it'll be a short, angry listen. And also, I'm finishing up my first novel, Copper Colored America, and that should be out in the next couple of months. So look forward to
All right,
that.
that's cool. Hey, I'm gonna order one. I want it signed though. All right.
I got you. I got
Hey,
you.
Word, me too.
I want to make sure y'all know check out her. She's smart and more importantly, that's my sister. So check her
That's
out.
not more important.
Big auntie, not the little one.
Me being smart is more important than being your sister.
Nah, ain't nothing more
I
important
mean,
than
that's debatable.
that.
Yeah, I wish Kayla would.
Yeah. Nah, my little
But I'm
sister.
the president. Hey,
That's
little
my
sister.
little sister. That's
Hey,
all.
little
Nah, my little sister's doing big things. I'm proud of her, and everybody gonna support you. Like I said, I'm glad you was able to get on and share some of your wisdom with us, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And we get you back on when your book come out. We talk about your book a little bit more.
That sounds good to me. Thank you.
everything gonna be alright.
All right. So we got anything for the people?
No, this was family affair was lovely. I think that actually, in terms of like general rules, again, we should think about the death thing. We definitely don't want people to decide things for us that will be dying soon. Also, like check your grandpa. Like them people have family members that are younger.
All right, we
Like
gonna
check
cut this
them. No,
one
no,
out right
check
now.
them
I
because I
appreciate
just
you.
don't understand why.
Um, we mute Israel. So on this mute, we appreciate y'all for coming in. Rock, we appreciate you, baby, and we will get back with the people soon. As always,
Tell a friend, to 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 like, subscribe, and listen, watch, send money to.
don't do that. But
Don't send us money.
nah,
All right, don't send us money.
Sending money.
My cash app. Hey, look, out of 10 Trap said send her money So no, we gonna talk about this. Hey, you don't worry about this. We got you. We got you. We gonna talk business. Hey guys, thank you. Remember, as always, he is Rob. I look like
Hey.
gotta go. Bye.
Studio. We in the studio. We in the studio. We Rob in the studio. In the studio. In the studio. Catch a vibe in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. We Rob we in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. Catch a vibe. Yeah, I'm in the studio with Rob. I need to make the heat flicker. Is alone and only thing can make a Rico beat sicker. So listen and get your wisdom. Gemstones on your head. Good with the OG like Flintstones. Good in bed. Been living a long time and he got something to say. Depending on how you feeling, dog, you might got something to pray. This type of influence that you ain't gotta filter through your liver. We in the studio with Rob. Come let the heat rock simmer.